We're talking about knife safety and knives. The first thing you want to do is make sure you have a different variety of knives, and you want to make sure that you're using the proper knife for the proper task. Last thing you want to do is use the wrong knife, the wrong size, end up cutting yourself. Next thing is I have this right here. This is meant to be on the floor underneath a carpet, but I discovered that this works really good to secure your cutting board. So what you do is you put that down, and then you take your cutting board and you put it on top of that, and it won't allow your cutting board to slide away. You don't want your cutting board to be moving as you're trying to cut your items. That is really dangerous. If you don't have one of those things, I also learned that those are great to just go right through a dishwasher and you know that they're cleaned and sanitized. I also learned that if you don't have that, you can get a paper towel, just a regular paper towel you get from your hand sink, get that damp, put that down, it works the same way, just as well. All right? You always want to make sure that you're using a sharp knife. All right, that's number 3. Very, very important to use a sharp knife. If it's not sharp, you have to put more pressure. More pressure you put on, you have more of a risk that it's going to turn or end up cutting you. You want to make sure that your knife is sharp at all time, and at the very end we're going to go through sharpening the knives. You're also going to want to use the claw grip, and by that what I mean is the hand that's holding the item in place is kind of a claw. All right, so this finger is in the front, these 4 fingers are in the back, and you hold your hand like that. So what I'm going to do in order to demonstrate this is I'm going to cut this in half, and what's going to happen is this finger is going to go in the front. The other way that I hold the knife is very important too. I take my thumb and I put it on the blade itself. I take my pointer finger and it goes across the blade, and I'm grabbing here. I'm grabbing here in the middle of the knife, right? I'm not grabbing up here, I'm not grabbing back here, I'm grabbing in the middle of the knife. You have more balance that way. If you put your finger on top, I see this a lot, people put their finger on top. I'm not a doctor, but if you take your this finger and put it on top, you have to use your whole arm. If you can just turn your finger like this, then you can just use your wrist. It's much easier to control, and if you're like this, it's easier for it to go from side to side. You have a better grip if you grab it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my finger like this. The blade of the knife is always on my finger. You can see that it's right there. This part of the knife is not sharp. This is the back of the knife, not sharp. That right there is the sharp part, okay? You want to make sure your fingers stay away from that. So if you're holding your hand like this at all times, you can keep your hand back, right? And you control with this finger just how fast and how far the knife goes forward. And all you simply do is move your finger back, just like that, and I can feel it on my finger at all times. I don't have to look because I can feel it on my finger at all times. All right? So there's that. Okay? Always cut with the blade away from your body. I don't want to walk in and see anybody going like this, cutting towards themselves. Use a cutting board. Always cut away from yourself. Okay? I'm going to set this to the side for 1 second. Okay? Never let the blade or the handle hang over the edge. Somebody comes along and they don't know whether it's there and they hit it, they could fall, it could cut them. You want to make sure that your knife is securely on your cutting board at all times. When you're done using your knife and you're going to take it to your sink, you're going to grab your knife, you're going to put the point down, the blade back, you're going to hold it by your side, and as you walk through the kitchen, you're going to let people know. If you have a hot pan in the kitchen, I want you to say hot behind you, mind your back, something like that. If you have a knife, I want you to say, again, it's by your side, it's down low, you're not waving it around, talking, hey, how you doing, what's going on? You're walking around with it like this, pointed down, blade back, and you're walking towards the thing, and if you come behind somebody, you say, behind you, sharp, behind you, have a knife, something like that, to let them know that that's what you have. Whatever you do, and I always, again, I'm teaching high school kids, so I usually look around the crowd of people that I'm talking to and say, how many baseball players, how many softball players, what kind of soccer players do I have standing in front of me? Because it's a knee jerk, it's an instinct reaction. If this goes to fall off the table, to try to catch it. If you're a soccer player, you try to kick it. All right? Don't do that. Fight the urge. If your knife goes to fall off the table, jump back, let it hit the floor. If the tip of the knife gets broken off, so be it. I'd rather deal with that than deal with it in the middle of your foot, or you cut yourself really bad trying to catch something that's super sharp. So don't let that, if it falls, I'd rather deal with that later, deal with the knife than deal with the injured person. All right. Do not hand a knife to anybody. Right? If I'm using this knife and somebody comes along and says, "Chef, can I use that knife?" then I'm going to set it down and I'm going to let them pick it up. I'm not going to go, "Hey, here you go." I'm not going to turn like this. I'm not going to do any of that nonsense. I'm just going to set it down and let them go ahead and take the knife from there. All right. When you clean the knife, now I wanted to move this stuff out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and change out cutting boards real quick. When you clean the knife, I want you to pretend this is my scrubber, okay? When you clean the knife, I want you to put the knife down. I want you to get the hot soapy water, and I want you to scrub from this side right here. Then I want you to flip it over and put the scrubber in the other hand and scrub from this side right here. Do not scrub like this, all right? When I was a student many years ago at the Culinary Institute of America, I had a knife skill test. I sharpened my knife, and it was as sharp as a razor blade. And we had to do the knife skill test. I had to dice onions, dice celery, you know, I did all the thing I had to do. And then when I was done, and I passed the test with flying colors, I went over to the sink and I went like this, and it was so sharp it went right through the scrubby and it cut all 4 fingers. Make sure that the blade is away from you when you're cleaning. Don't make the same mistake that I did. That being said, when you take this to the pot sink, you never, ever leave your knife there. It's your knife, you used it, you wash it, you rinse it, you sanitize it, and you put it back where it belongs. Period. End of discussion. All right? Now, we're going to talk about this. If you decide to go to the Culinary Institute of America, you know how the Florida State, they're the Seminoles, and Penn State's and Nittany Lions. Well, the CIA is the Steels. This is a Steel. All right? And what's meant is this is meant to be a guard or a safety mechanism here. And what you're supposed to do is put your knife on an angle and draw it from heel to tip, from heel to tip. Right? Now, it's extremely dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. And I see people that get comfortable and they go like crazy and they go to town. I have seen people go phoom and come right into their thumb because they're not paying attention. They think they've got it. They think they have it under control. So when I became a teacher, I said, okay, what I want people to do is I want you to put it the other way around. Still go heel to tip, but you're going away from yourself. Then I'm going to make sure nobody gets hurt. So I tell everybody that, and I think I'm doing a good thing, and I walk around the corner, and there's a kid going like this. And he's going right at somebody else. So then I turned it around now. When I tell any of my students to true a knife, I have them go like this and go down. All this does is put the edge back on. This does not sharpen a knife. All it does is put the edge on. That's it. All right, so we're going to talk about sharpening our knives now. So the first thing we're going to use a tri-stone. It's got 3 separate stones, and you can see it lifts up. Each one of these stones has a different grit to it, and what you do is you start with the one that has the most abrasive feel, and then you go to the next one, and you go to the next one. You start to make the edge with the abrasive one, and you work your way down. Now, you want to make sure that you have honing oil, right? Do not use vegetable oil or anything laying around. You have to make sure that this one is, it says right on it, it is approved by the Food and Drug Administration to be used with food contact surfaces. I'm going to wash my knife after I'm done doing this, but this way you're going to make sure that you're not going to have any issues. But I've seen people use vegetable oil thinking, well, oil is oil, and it's not the same thing. It makes the sharpening stone all gummy, and it doesn't work nearly as well. All right, now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to anchor my sharpening stone. Now, there's different schools of thought, and everything is your personal preference, right? I prefer to have the stone vertical, away from my body. And what I like to do is like to put the tip down and work my way to the heel, and then turn around, use the heel, and work my way back to the tip. There are a lot of chefs out there who prefer to have it this way, and they'll go from side to side. That's their choice. It's totally up to the person, but that's my personal thing. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil on. Now with this particular brand, there's a well in the bottom, and so what usually happens is when you put your honing oil on, you keep putting it on, it falls to the bottom of this well, And as you turn your stone, the oil will get on the stone, so you don't have to keep oiling it. But there's not a lot in there, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on. I'm going to mix it around a little bit. All right, now I've seen people, especially when I was at the CIA, I saw people that would use only one section. They would go straight across. Their stone had a big dip in it. Right? I'm not a big fan of that. I like to start at the tip, like I said. I like to go away from me because I can put lots of pressure down. The idea is that you want to put the edge on this knife to be a 45-degree angle, going like this, away from you, right? A 45-degree angle. So you want to put it on to 45, and you want to push down hard. And I like to use the entire stone, from tip to heel, from heel to tip. I'm able to push a lot of pressure down with this thumb and put a lot of pressure down with these two fingers. And do my very best to try to put that edge back on my knife. Trying to make it as sharp as I possibly can. Now, like I said, I'm using the most coarse one to try to put the edge back on. The steel will not put an edge on. All the steel will do is, now I can feel it. Oh, that's much better. I can feel it already. It's much better. So I've done it on the most coarse one. Now I'm going to turn it. One turn. I'm going to put a little more oil down. And you can hear I'm putting the exact same amount of pressure as I was before, but you can hear that it's not as coarse, it's not as loud. I'm trying to put the same amount of pressure and the same amount of distance on each side. I want to make sure, oh, that's much better. I'm going to turn that one more time. Put a little more honing oil down. And now I'm on the finest one. And the same thing, you'll hear just a little bit less. It's a little bit less. All I'm doing now is just really finishing it off nice and sharp. And it's just that simple. Now we're going to wash, rinse, and sanitize before we even consider using that knife. But you want to make sure that you put your lid on your sharpening stone if you have a lid. If not, you want to wrap it. You don't want to clean that honing oil off of it. You don't want to run water on it. Water and oil don't mix. You want to leave it as it is so it's all ready for the next time when you need to sharpen your knives. All right, with vegetable cuts, again, I'm going to take my my board catcher or my board anchor. I'm going to put that down. Put my cutting board on top of that so it doesn't slide away. First thing we're going to do is a chiffonade, and what we're going to do is we're going to take, I've already washed all my vegetables, we're going to take our basil. It's a little tarnished, it's a little old. What we're going to do is we're going to lay it on top of each other like this, and then we're going to roll it, and we're going to take our knife and we're going to make really thin little strips. All you're going to do is just little tiny cuts. Now, if you were here, you could smell it. It has a great smell right now, but you end up with little tiny ribbons, right? That's known as chiffonade. That's great for garnish. It's awesome to put inside of dishes. It gives a great appearance inside of the dish itself. It's a little different than a chopped, and it kind of looks a little different, gives it a little ambiance. All right, the next cut we're going to do is going to be the roll cut. Now, what you're going to do is cut the end off. We're going to save that. For those of you who watch my carrot timble one, that's where all the carrot timbles come from. So what you do is you put your knife on a 45-degree angle. All right. When you put your knife on the 45-degree angle, then you're going to cut the carrot. Then you're going to roll it, and you're going to do it again. Same thing. Keep rolling it. That's why it's called a roll cut. You always keep that angle, and you keep rolling, and you get kind of a funky oblique look. All right, a little different kind of a look, and that's great for vegetable. It's a little different cut than your average vegetable that you see. All right. I'm gonna set that to the side for real quick. I'm gonna show you something that I always find interesting. When you go to peel, the peeler has two blades, one on the top, one on the bottom. Common thing that I see people do is just nice and easy and slow. If you're doing 1 carrot, it doesn't really matter, but if you're doing 50 pounds of carrots, you want to go back and forth, up and down, quickly. All right. Again, as a chef type person, I don't have time to monkey around. I've got a lot of work to do. All right. It goes a lot faster if you go up and down with it. All right. Let's get rid of this scrap right now. Now this I would not be able to use in my carrot timbales because it has the outside on it. But I would definitely be able to save that and use that in a stock. I don't have a problem as long as it's been washed. I don't have a problem with using that in a stock. So the next vegetable cut we're going to go to, actually, we're going to skip past that and we're going to go to the rondelle. All right. So the rondelle is nothing more than a round shape. So you take a vegetable, a tomato, a fruit that is round, a round shape, cylinder shape, and you just simply cut it into circles. And that's a rondelle. Very simple, very easy. Alright, rondelle. Now, if I take my knife, again, I put it on an angle. I'm going to cut that first one off and put that to the side. But I'm cutting it on an angle. It gives the appearance that the vegetable is bigger than it actually is. And it gives it a different oblong kind of oval shape, right, versus your round shape. This is nice if you're doing something like a ratatouille, or if you want to fan something out. It's much easier, gives you more surface area to work with, and that's called a diagonal cut. All right. Now, we're going to get into dice. So, the first dice we're going to do is going to be a brunoise. So I cut the end off. I cut it into a chunk that's manageable. Right? Set that to the side for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut one side and make it flat. Now it doesn't rock and roll. Right? This is going to go to the side. Again, you can turn that into the carrot timbales. A lot of times when I'm showing somebody how to do this, they're like, "Chef, you're wasting so much carrot." It's not a waste if you're going to be able to put it into a carrot timbale. So now I square this off the best I can. Because I have one flat edge, it's much easier to square off. Okay, so classic brunoise is going to be 1/8 of an inch cubes. All right, so I'm going to put my knife about 1/8 of an inch, and what I'm trying to do, I tried to make this into a block as best I can, and now what I'm doing is I'm cutting this into, basically, if this was a tree, I'm cutting it into boards. I'm cutting it into planks. Now, there's the top part, and it's curved. If I'm going to be in a food show, I don't want that curved part. I want nice squares. So I'm going to square that back up just the way I did it. Now, I already went through, if it was big, and I cut it into things that were 1/8 of an inch thick. Now I'm going to cut those into 1/8 of an inch thick again. Oops, slippery a little bit. Maybe I'm not going to do so many at one time. 1/8 of an inch thick sticks. Then from there, I'm going to turn that 1/8 of an inch cubes. And that's going to give me my brunoise. I have a nice small dice to go in my soup or whatever I want to put it in. Right? Now, that's brunoise. This is about 1/4 of an inch thick. And I'm going to make this into a small dice. And the same thing. I'm going to turn that into about 1/4 of an inch. Turn it this way, and I'm going to have 1/4 of an inch dice. So we have our difference between our brunoise and 1/4 of an inch. Now, if I want to make a fine dice, I'm going to make it a 1/16 of an inch, and it's even going to be smaller than this. All right? Now, that is for your medium dice, your brunoise, or excuse me, your small dice and your brunoise. I'm going to put those onto a plate. And we're going to follow very much the same type of a style, and we're going to make our juliennes. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut the end off. I'm going to cut it into about 2-inch chunk. Now, a good rule of thumb is usually this part of your finger is 1 inch. So 2 of these together equals 2 inches. And you're going to follow the exact same thing. Cut off one side. If you want, you can put it up like this to cut off that side. Save that for the timbals. Cut off the other side. And you're doing the exact same thing as you did before. All you're doing is making it into a block the best you can. All right. Then you're going to want to make that 1/8 of an inch cut. Alright, and the julienne is it's also known as the matchstick. It's about the size of a matchstick. 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch by 2 inches long. And by cutting it into that block, you pretty much ensure yourself of getting nice, even, square cuts. Now, in the end, you might get one that's a little goofy. I pop that in my mouth and eat it. If I'm trying to do a food show, I want to make sure that I'm hitting these just right. Or if I'm trying to impress somebody, I'm hitting these just right. Anyone on the outside, so that one right there, the last two, you can see how it kind of goes up on a curve like this. You want to make sure that you don't use that one because you don't want that curve. You want nice, straight, even. All right. That's going to be your julienne. 1/16 of an inch would be fine julienne. All right, and so this one we're going to cut like this, and this is going to be 1/4 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch, and that's going to be your julienne, or excuse me, that's going to be your batonette. All right, again, this one has a little bit of a ramp on it. I kick that to the curb. I want only the ones that are nice and square. Okay, so that is the batonette. We have our batonette. We have our julienne. Now, those are nice and easy when you're talking about a carrot. Oh, I washed this before and I didn't get the sticker off. I'm sorry. So now I've got the sticker off. I've got this all washed up. If I'm going to do a pepper, what I try to do is I try to find the flat surfaces. So I'll cut the top off. And again, that is not waste. That is good usable product. That can go in a salad. We'll hold on to that. All right. The inside part, all I do is simply pull that right out. Okay, get rid of that. Pull out the seeds. Now what I try to do is I try to find the areas that are flat, and I try to cut the pepper so I'm getting those flat areas the best I can, because you don't want to fight the curve of the vegetable trying to make these juliennes. Right? You're not going to make a batonette of peppers. It's just too hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these to the side. Now I want to do the exact same thing I did with the carrot. I want to try to get it into a 2-inch portion, and I want to try to and square it off the best I can. As you can see, this is certainly not square. It's kind of a U shape. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to square it off first to the best I can, given the nature of the vegetable. And again, this is a usable product. We'll put that to the side. That can easily go in a soup or a salad. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the vegetable and put it at the edge of the cutting board. My knuckles, I can't hit the cutting board with my knuckles. So I'm going to put it at the edge of the cutting board. I'm going to push it down flat, and I'm really going to cut the vegetable in half. And you can see my knife is half. You can see the knife going through. You can see it transparent through the vegetable. I'm holding my fingers on top and making sure they're staying above the knife so I don't cut myself. And I'm making one parallel cut, so I end up with this. Again, usable product. We'll put that to the side. Now this isn't exactly perfect, so I want to square it off as best I can, because I'm trying my best not to get any I want squares. I do not want oblong or weird ones. So I'm just simply making nice easy cuts now, since I've squared it off and I've made it 1/8 of an inch thick. Now I have julienne for my peppers as well. And if you have the carrots the peppers, and then you throw in there some green peppers. Now you have some nice color, nice pop of color, and it doesn't take a long time to cook it. All right, I think that covers it all with vegetable cuts. Thank you for watching.